The look, so he looked nowhere at all. He stared at the horizon, jaw clenched, hands shaking like a boy caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. The woman shifted slightly, the ropes biting into her skin, and the movement made her gasp. It was clear now. She had been stripped of more than her belongings. Whatever modest clothing she once wore underneath had been taken, leaving her exposed in a way no decent person would ever choose. Gideon pulled the blanket from his saddle and tossed it toward her without looking back. "Don't move," he said softly. His voice cracked despite himself. The blanket landed over her legs. She let out a breath that sounded like relief mixed with sobbing. Dust clung to her cheeks, and tears cut pale lines through the dirt on her face. She tried to curl inward, but the rope stopped her short. The silence between them was heavy. Only the sound of grasshoppers and the distant stamp of Gideon's horse filled the air. This wasn't an accident. No storm had done this. No wild animal. Someone had taken time. Someone had meant for her to be found exactly like this. As Gideon finally knelt to cut the ropes at her ankles, her voice trembled again. "Please, don't look." He nodded, though she could not see it. But in that moment, with the heat beating down and the open land watching in silence, one thought struck him harder than any bullet. If she was left here alive, ashamed, and terrified, then what kind of man was meant to find her? And what was supposed to happen next if he did? So here's the question that changes everything. Was she only a victim left behind, or was she the beginning of something far more dangerous meant for him? Gideon kept his eyes on the horizon like it was the only decent thing left to stare at. He slid his knife out slow, not to scare her, just to get the job done. His voice stayed low. "Ma'am, I'm going to cut the ropes. I won't look. I promise." She swallowed hard under the blanket. "I didn't mean for anyone to see me like this," she said. And then she let out a breath that sounded like a laugh that hurt. "Guess that ship sailed." She tried to joke, but her voice shook, like humor was the only way she could keep from breaking. Gideon snorted once. Quiet. "Yeah, well, I've had worse mornings, but not by much." He reached behind him and grabbed his canteen, still facing away, and held it out like a man offering peace. "Take a sip." "Small one. Don't choke." Her hand trembled as it found the canteen. She drank, then coughed, then gave a tiny, angry sigh. "Warm as bath water," she muttered. "Welcome to Kansas," Gideon said. "It does that in summer." That little bit of normal talk did something important. It made her feel human again, not just a poor thing left on the grass. Her breathing slowed. Her shoulders dropped a fraction. The blanket stayed tight around her like it was the last good thing in the world. "I'm Mabel," she said. "Most folks call me May." "Gideon," he answered. "Friends call me Gid. You can call me whatever gets you through the next 5 minutes." She almost laughed again, then winced. The ropes had dug deep, and the skin around her wrists looked raw and swollen. Gideon felt that old ranch anger rise in him, the kind that starts in your gut and climbs to your throat. Somebody did this on purpose. Somebody tied those knots like they had time, and like they enjoyed it. May spoke like she hated every word. They took my bag, my shoes, and what little modesty I had left just to be cruel. Gideon's jaw tightened. He still did not look. He reached back, found a second strip of cloth from his saddle roll, and slid it toward her. "Wrap that around your shoulders. There's no honor in the wind getting a better view than it deserves." May pulled the cloth around herself, and for a second she sounded almost like a regular young woman. "If you tell anyone you saw me like this, I'll haunt your barn. I'll rattle every bucket you own," Gideon huffed. "Ma'am, if you can haunt, you don't need my help. But I'd appreciate you haunting the men who did this first." She went quiet again. Then she whispered, "I was headed for Abilene, the depot. I work there sometimes. They said I heard something I shouldn't." Gideon's eyes narrowed. Abilene wasn't just cattle and whiskey. It was gossip, money, and men who smiled while they stole. He shifted his weight and finally lowered himself to one knee, still looking away, still careful. "All right, May, I'm going to cut the knot at your ankles, and then we get you out of this sun." May's voice jumped, sharp with panic and embarrassment. there. Gideon turned his face even farther away, and right then, something snapped through the air. The dirt beside his knee exploded like a fist hit the ground. Who just shot at him? Gideon didn't answer the question out loud. He just reacted. He grabbed a fistful of grass and yanked himself sideways. Then he reached back and pulled May down flat behind him, blanket and all. May let out a sharp little squeak like a startled rabbit, then clamped her mouth shut. Another crack popped from somewhere up on the rise. A second puff of dust jumped a few feet away, close enough that Gideon felt grit hit his cheek. "Stay low," he whispered, "like you're a fence post. Fence posts don't get shot at. Most days." May's voice came out tiny. "I was hoping my day would end before the shooting part." "Me too," Gideon muttered. "But Kansas don't always ask what you're hoping." He kept his eyes down, but he listened hard. He heard a faint shuffle in the grass, the way sound carries when the air's hot and dry. He also caught the thin smell of burnt powder, drifting on the wind. That told him the shooter wasn't a mile off. They were close enough to feel bold. Gideon slid his knife into his palm, then felt around under the blanket until he found May's bound ankles. He still didn't look. He cut the rope with 2 quick pulls, then pressed the knife handle into her hand. "Hold it. Don't wave it around. Just hold it like it's the last piece of sense you've got." May's fingers closed on it, shaking. "I've never stabbed anyone," she whispered. "Good," Gideon said. "Let's keep your record clean today." He crawled, slow and steady. Using the slight dip in the ground, he tugged May with him, inch by inch, like pulling a sack of feed across a barn floor. It wasn't graceful. It was survival. When they reached a patch of taller grass near the creek bank, Gideon finally risked a glance uphill. He didn't see a man, but he saw what mattered. A wisp of smoke, thin as a thread, and a quick flicker of sunlight off metal. Then nothing. "Someone's up there," he murmured. "And they're patient." May swallowed. "They left me out there. They wanted you to find me." That landed heavy. Gideon felt the anger rise again, hotter than the summer sun. A grown man could handle a feud, but using a young woman like a trap, that was low even for frontier trash. He leaned close to May, keeping his voice calm. "Listen, we're going to move along the creek bed. It's messy, but it's lower. We get to my line shack, then we talk. And you tell me everything you heard at that depot." May nodded, eyes wide. "Okay," she whispered. "But Gid, there's one more thing." He paused. "What thing?" She stared past him, toward the rise, and her voice turned shaky. "I saw him before." "Not today." "Not out on the prairie." "I saw him around your place. If you're still with me, do me a favor. Tap subscribe real quick so you don't miss how this turns out. And go ahead and sip your tea or coffee. Get comfortable. Then tell me what time it is for you right now and where you're listening from." Gideon didn't ask her to say the name out loud. He didn't need to. The look on May's face told him enough. It was the look folks get when they recognize danger, not from rumor, but from memory. Someone she had seen before, someone who smiled at her in daylight. They moved along the creek bed slow and low, water soaking Gideon's boots and cooling the dust on their skin. Gideon reached back and slipped the reins off his horse. He gave the gelding one sharp pat and sent him trotting hard toward home. If that horse hit the Mercer corral alone, the old hands would know something was wrong. May kept the blanket tight, teeth clenched, doing her best not to shake, wet and rattled from shock. Every sound felt louder down there. Frogs, insects, the soft scrape of boots on mud. Gideon hated that feeling. It meant eyes were watching. When they reached the line shack, Gideon waved her inside first. It wasn't anything special. 4 walls, a crooked door, and a smell of old hay and sweat, but it was shade, and shade meant breathing room. He barred the door and finally turned his back fully to her. "There's a clean shirt on that peg," he said. "Put it on. Take your time." May did not answer right away. Then he heard fabric move, followed by a shaky breath that sounded almost like relief. "Thank you," she said. Not loud, not dramatic, just real. Gideon sat on an upturned crate and wiped his face. "All right," he said. "Now tell me what you meant back there." May's voice came steadier now that the door was shut. I work the depot desk some afternoons. I file papers. I listen more than I talk. Men forget a woman is in the room when they think she doesn't matter. Gideon nodded. That part he understood well. I heard names, she continued. Schedules, livestock numbers. One man kept saying your ranch was in the way, said you were stubborn, said you wouldn't sell. Gideon felt his stomach tighten. Who said it? May hesitated. Then she said it. The man giving orders. He wore the same brand as your hands. The Flying M. Gideon didn't move, but his face changed, like a door inside him just shut. The name hit like a kick to the ribs. Cole had eaten at his table, rode his